pre-COVID scenario, we have typically done these sessions over breakfast or high tea, in a face-to-face environment. But having said that, since we're not able to do that, we realized that let's any which ways get together, small groups. Objective of these sessions was largely to come together and discuss on areas like today's topic, let's say, is on the new hire learning strategy. Understand what are best practices that are being followed across your organizations, and just exchange views. So it's really like a short chit chat session amongst industry leaders, who come with varied views. Hi, Sonal.
Hi,
Just
Nidhi.
getting started. Hi. Hi. So I think while I guess Kevna joins in, to start this session, may I request each one of you to just give a very short, background or brief about yourself. Just introduce yourself. And the first question that I have in mind is, with all that is going on, the COVID pandemic, lockdown, work from home, has anything changed in your hiring strategies? So if you just go, around the table, Sheetal, want to go first?
Yep, sorry, I was on mute and started talking. Hi, my name is Sheetal Malhotra. I am a L&D professional for last 15 years. Um, and I work with some great organizations like HCL, NIIT, currently working with a company called Three Pillar Global, not a very known brand in India, but it's a fantastic organization to work with. You have to really experience it to be able to know, how special this place is. So it's a very, very special place. I don't think anything has changed in three pillar global, because work from home used to be our one of our EVPs last year as well. So I don't think we have changed anything. Yes, there is a lot of addition. There is a chai pe karcha kind of sessions happening. That there is a lot of engagement activities happening for employees. There are remote learning opportunities for employees, but nothing has changed, to be very honest. It's just that the mode has shifted from a face to face to a Microsoft Teams, Zoom, sometimes Hangout, but everything else is same. And I feel, and I talk to a lot of people, I feel that each one of us, including me, when it comes to how are you doing during pandemic, we all are thriving. We all are extremely happy. The organization is really taking care of us and helping us maintain the work-life balance. I think there is a lot of flexibility. There is a lot of autonomy of decision making. I think it's going fantastic for me. And personally, it's I would say it's more challenging personally, because we have three rooms, and I have my in-laws, and I have my husband who is a full-time worker. I have my son who is like growing, and he's in eighth class, so he needs a room. So sometimes, I have to sit on the stairs and take calls. Sometimes I have to go and sit in the store and take calls. So personally, it is quite challenging. Professionally, I think we all are doing amazing, amazing. I would not say pandemic is good, but I think we are able to take care of this new normal pretty well.
Mm-hmm. Quite interesting to hear from you, Sheetal, on that front. Hi, Kevna. Just going around the table, introducing each one,
Hi,
and
Nidhi. Yeah.
hi,
I'm
hi.
sorry, I kind of thank you for waiting for me, and I'm sorry I got in late. I've not used Microsoft Office very often, so I think I got stuck there.
Okay, no worries. Yeah, just going around the table, introducing each one. Subnesh, would you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Great to hear you, Sheetal. It was it was almost like the same what I am supposed to say, right? People are experiencing almost the same, right? And I believe important factor here is I believe we are more closer to family this 4, 5, 6 months, right? We understand our responsibility on both the sides, professionally and personally. But yes, somewhere we are little close for sure. Right. So just to introduce myself, Subnesh Sharma, representing VVDN Technology here, into HR domain from last 15 years, and on all different gamuts of HR, learning and development, core HR services, talent acquisition, all are being tested, tried, experienced, whatever you call it. One plus point which pandemic has given in VVDN is that we have grown. We took this as an opportunity and we have grown almost double in between. So where other organizations or industries struggling on hiring side, we were able to bring more and more talent. So, as a data fact, just sharing as a data fact, we have onboarded all last 6 months, and this is an enormous opportunity for us, right? Coming from embedded industry background, we last almost 12 years we are growing based out of India, proposing industry a complete solution from concept to a product. Hence, this was an opportunity for us to scale up and give better results to our organization. So the moment the first question when EP was asking that how was your experience and all, right, about work from home, I said, okay, work from home was there for sure, but then it was very limited, right? May onwards we started working from office. That's how the current situation is. Right. So a little bit about me. I think I would not take much time. Parking ball back to you, Niti.
Thanks, Suvnish. And it's really heartening to hear each one of you all saying that your hiring continues. And for you, Suvnish, it's doubled. I mean, it's really, really good. I think the job markets will be very happy to hear, someone say this surely. Yeah. Deepak, I just move to you.
Yeah, thanks. So, so this is Deepak here, Deepak Arora, with over 22 years experience in learning and development. Uh, Started my career with NIIT, but have been with organizations like Capgemini, then moved to Genpact, and currently I'm part of DXC Technology. For those who do not know DXC Technology, although it's a new organization formed in 2017, but it's got a legacy 50-year-old because it came out as a merger of Computer Science Corporation and HP Enterprise. So from a legacy perspective, it's an organization which is pretty old, uh, carries best practice from two great companies globally. And right now we are almost 130,000 employees globally. My role in this organization right now, I lead the global DXC University learning platform, um, which is primarily leading the entire learning technology, imbibing into the organization in terms of what platforms, what would make sense, how would learners really learn in this kind of scenario, something that's my key objective. So my objective is to kind of more look at from the last 1 year. I've been, had multiple roles in this organization, was working with the business as well. But since last 1 year, I'm leading this. And my key role here is to look at how can I get most out of the online learning and the platforms, and what kind of new additional technologies can I get, whether it's AI, ML, or whatever, to enhance the learning experience. Now, as far as hiring is concerned, I think nothing has changed. Um, I mean, the only thing changed has happened is the fact that how do you train these individuals? How do you onboard these individuals? That has changed. I mean, from a campus perspective, if I had to look at it, we would have gone in last year only and did the hiring. Right now, the phase when COVID happened is when actually uh, we were supposed to onboard them. That's the phase when it started. So I think most of the change has been in the onboarding slash training plus training component overall. That's how I see it right now. Thanks.
Thanks, Deepak. Rajesh, can we hear from you?
Sure. Can you hear me? All right, great. Hi, everyone. Good to meet all of you. My name is Rajesh Kohli. Overall, 19 years of work experience, and out of which 17 years in training, learning, and development space. I work with OLX Autos, and I had done transformation for all the Asian countries. Now, as far as the situation is concerned, yes, I completely agree with Deepak. In terms of hiring, nothing has changed. Yes, it has slowed down a bit, but the criteria of hiring has not changed. But onboarding, training, and everything, that has changed. The methodology has changed. So we have converted everything into e-learning, and that's how we are managing this. Earlier, it used to be classroom. However, for our city operations team, after the e-learning, people the OJT is happening exactly the way it used to happen earlier, because the stores and everything is open. There was a month where we couldn't do it, March and April, but after that, everything is back to the way we were doing.
Okay, very nice. Harshal?
Hello all. You can hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, great. Hello all. So good evening, and it's a Friday. Already in Friday mood. So I was just wondering, how the participation would be on the Friday evening. Okay, so I'm working for a company named Altran Technologies, and now it's being a part of Capgemini. And I'm working for Altran for last 4 years. And in my current role, I'm heading professional and leadership capability development, which I'm doing for last 1.5 years. Prior to that, I was also taking care of technology piece when it was small, and then some acquisitions took place, and now it's a bigger organization. My role became very focused on professional learning. Prior to that, I was in HCL Technologies, and that was amazing experience. Overall, almost a decade, I was into core technology, not training, but technology. I was one among few in virtual reality space, where I did my research in IIT Powai then, and I was also a head for Center of Excellence, a research unit funded by Government of India. Then last 1 decade, I'm more into corporate learning space. I headed the Academy for Engineering and R&D Services of HCL. And then I moved to Altran. I was ever looking for getting into a behavioral science, and I finally found that opportunity. So I'm enjoying that. As far as the COVID time is concerned, it really benefited me personally, as well as the function which I'm leading. Me, because I started giving a lot of virtual trainings now. It was a kind of a change. I used to do that. I used to do a lot of technical trainings in the past, more in the technology space, then gradually moved to leadership training, again classroom, but then moving to virtual platform. That was a major change we adopted now. It's almost like 5 months, and now, okay, all are settled. Like, okay, we all, me and my team, we have now picked up a thread on how to do it and how to engage. From the function point of view, amazing change. Now we have at this month, if I say, around 50 virtual sessions in a month with a team size of 4 people, and average attendance has been around 20 people attending the session till end of the session. So something which I tried, and a lot of experimentation. This pandemic gave us a lot of opportunities for experimenting. Failures helps us to learn. So that's what happened. A lot of failures took place in the beginning, a lot of trial and error, but finally, as all of us say in L&D, the one who learns a lot is the one who learns a lot is us. So we learned a lot in this process. Did a lot of experimentation, and something which I found is employees are actually looking forward, provided that they have given a lot of opportunities to learn without telling them what to learn. That's exactly the nerve I caught recently. We are not telling in our employees what to learn. We are telling that here's a plethora. You have e-learning on LinkedIn, you have webinars, you have VILTs, do whatever you want. And we saw a very good trend where people are really looking forward without asking them to do. So that's something which I learned, we all learned. So pandemic, it's working out good. So that's
We'll
a bit from my
surely wait
side.
to hear from you on the virtual reality experience and how that can be now made inclusive to our
Oh,
learning,
yes.
right? Especially now with given the current situation. So thanks. Sonal, can I request you to just introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Niti, for inviting me to this panel discussion. And it is a pleasure connecting with the fellow colleagues because this is a time when we actually can share a lot of stuff and, experience what's happening in the industry. So thanks for that. I'm Sonal Modi, and I have joined MasterCard. This is my week 2, and I manage the entire global enterprise technology. So one of the best example of a new hire getting hired by MasterCard during the pandemic time. So here you see a live example. Superb onboarding, flawlessly, seamlessly done. and very beautifully done, and it is done for all. It's not about your designation and position, but it is about all. When I was onboarded, there were so many people who were back in their hometowns, and then yet the organization is very considerate about handing over the assets, etc., to make them live and active to whichever locations they are. Not only the base location, but probably if an, let's say that your base location of work is Pune, but you are now based out of Solapur or any other kind of remote place, just because of this pandemic, because people have gone back home. People are even even in such kind of situations, Mastercard is actually sending the assets to the new hires to their respective locations. So that's the best example that I can actually cite over here. um, Prior to this, I was with Pfizer, a tech banking organization, and also Mastercard. As you know, it's a technology organization in the fintech space. Fortunately, this space is only booming up a lot, especially in the current times where digital technologies are playing a very important role, a very pivotal role, because people are looking for doing all transactions digitally, right? And that's the reason the hiring doesn't stop. Neither did it stop in Pfizer nor over here. It continues, and I see that there are a lot of opportunities. Organizations are only growing. Of course, the pace at which they are going probably will be a little slow or different for different organizations, but then they are certainly hiring, and they are ensuring that employees are taken care of, the new hires are taken care of. There are so many touch points. So I think most organizations have adapted to the virtual reality, the new norms, and they are doing their best in the space. I'm talking from a previous organization point of view and also the current that 2 weeks that I'm in this place. So that's about me.
Thanks, Somi. And it'll be very interesting to now also hear about your own experience of being onboarded virtually, right?
Yeah.
in your new organization. Very interesting. Kedna?
I kind of resonate with Sonal's experience. I have also just about recently joined my new organization in the capacity of heading HR. I used to head L&D for a long time, and I've been in BFSI also for the longest time. So I quit and I joined both in the virtual space. I can completely understand and empathize with people who do that, but it is interesting. It's not easy at all. I have been propagating virtual learning and e-learning modalities in my earlier role and even now, but I completely understand with how difficult it can get with people, in a house full of people. When work from home has happened earlier for me and for a lot of people, I'm sure, but it has been in a very different space in terms of your mind, physical safety, psychological safety, the time space that you have had, in terms of help that you've had at home, and now it is like literally work at, from and for home. Becomes extremely difficult. So yeah, it has been interesting, no doubt. It has been exciting, yes, but it has definitely not been an easy process in the last 6 months. As I speak, also I'm in my hometown, Sonal. So I have been given all my laptop and my virtual reading material and everything out here. So it's a lot of efforts that organizations are also taking. I think this is also a time when people are able to understand leaders, understand organization in the true light of sense. Because you kind of, it's like crisis is the time that tests everybody and gives out their true colors. So it helps people understand that also a lot. Yeah, so I think everybody kind of covered it. So that's a positive of being at the end of it, because then I don't really have to talk as much. But nice
We'll
connecting
surely
with all of them.
we'll surely want to hear a lot more, from you, Kevna, as we
Sure.
continue our discussion. So thank you everyone once again. Like I introduced myself, I'm Neeti, been in team leads for about a little over 16 years now. Worn various hats within the organization in the last about 7 or 8 years in the space of skilling and upskilling. Prior to team leads, I was with Aptech for about 9 years. So come from the education and the learning background. Currently, I manage, TeamLead Skills University, which is India's first skills university, the enterprise learning space, and everything and anything that's happening on the skilling and upskilling side within the organization. So, yeah, so really very interesting to meet all of you, virtually. And what I bring as onto the table, the next question that I have is, while each one of us have gone virtual in our learning and our onboarding or inductions for our employees, apart from using Zoom, Microsoft Teams, what are the other changes that have happened in your organization in terms of, making people learn, throughout, whether it's induction, whether it's upskilling, reskilling, what are other changes that you've had to make across for your organizations? Anyone, I mean, this is just a discussion, so.
So if I may start here,
Yeah.
this is Deepak. See, from a change perspective, from on the learning piece, besides a virtual learning environment, first of all, let's understand the fact that you can't have an apple to apple comparison of a training happening in a instructor led mode in a classroom to just doing a training on Zoom or a virtual platform, because it is not same, and the efficacy of it will not be the same as well, because in this kind of environment, participants are in a virtual environment. They are sitting at their homes. They have other distractions as well, which could lead to the efficiency of the training getting lost in some way or the other. So the entire outlook on learning has to change uh, into a more asynchronous mode, which is a combination of both some pieces of virtual learning like this and some pieces of just doing learning at their own pace at their own time, because sometimes in this kind of environment, sitting in front of a machine for 8 hours in front of a screen is not easy. I mean, in a classroom mode, we can always ask for the trainer, let's go for a tea break, come back, have discussions, and a lot of things happen there. In this kind of environment, it doesn't. So you have to look at a very different structure of learning out here. You have to think from the mindset of a learner and then put this structure together. You have to think for the fact that they don't have patience to sit in front of a screen for 4 hours and listen to a lecture. Wouldn't work. So you have to look at, first of all, the amount of screen time to be reduced to the right sizing, which means don't have everything as a lecture. Have some of these things as videos, which they can either do a pre-work and come. The focus during this 1 or 2 hours in a face-to-face kind of environment should be to talk to the expert, get the right solutioning and real life case studies solved. Leave the basics to videos. Uh, that's how I see it. And in this environment is where you should solve problems for them. So the combination will differ. You have to provide a right set. I'm since I come from a technology space, I would want to say, I mean, you need to look at virtual labs being made available to them for practicing in the environment. They should have trainers time where trainer will solve their problems. The trainer will not give lectures, will not work. I mean, just a gist, we could add, I could talk through this for the next half an hour also, but I think this is what I would say as the essence of it.
Anyone else would want to add to what Deepak said?
I personally feel, Niti, that this is a golden period for learning and development as a function or a capability development function, because people have started realizing that it's very important for us to learn. Number one, in the daily rut of things, when we used to go into the offices, etc., deploying people on projects and then not having them available for trainings has been a very common concern, I think, and most of us would agree that people don't come to the classrooms or learn. And given the fact that as we are progressing from the traditional approach of learning to the virtual norms, just because of this situation that has occurred, I think this is only going to strengthen the understanding and the power of technology moving forward. So for me, I personally feel that in the space that we are, this is really a golden period for us of captivating this time and ensuring that learning is really made valuable for people. And when I say that, I completely agree with Deepak that the kind of technology, the kind of talent landscape that we have in the organization today are very diverse, right? So understanding their learning patterns and learning styles, and not over, not giving an overdose of all the virtual aspects plays a very important role. One. Two is that it's not only about giving virtual platforms and the ecosystem made available. Our value proposition will come as we stay together with the talent, with the business, and also with our task force. It's not only about saying that, hey, these are the virtual programs available, go and log in, but how do we actually have a hand in glove kind of a partnership with our talent and also with the business will play very important role for us to sustain this momentum of learning. So all I wanted to summarize is that good period for us. Let's captivate this, let's encourage people to work, but it's not only about technology and ecosystems to be available. Definitely they are very very important because that will help salvage the situation today, but at the same time, how do we actually be partners to them, consultants to them, and help them to learn in the right direction, in the right pockets, with the right blended learning model, is something which will create a success for us as a group, is what I personally feel.
Sure.
So
Can
even
I add on something
pedagogy
here?
has, yeah, Shikha, please.
I loved what Deepak and Sonal said. That's what is happening in our organizations as well. Plus, what my observation is that more of informal ways of teaching, more of informal ways of learning is kind of flourishing extremely well. There is something called community of practice in my current organization. There is an initiative called Tech Nugget. What happens in Tech Nugget is people come forward, they share their, what they have done, how they fall, what was the failure while they were in the process of writing that particular code, when they were experimenting with their code. And that's a 15 minutes knowledge sharing sessions. And I see that people look forward to attend those sessions. So informal ways of learning. And I think Rajesh mentioned that, don't tell them what to learn. We are not teaching them, you have to learn this. Give them the ecosystem, tell them what are the tools available at your disposal, give them more of informal ways of learning. I think that's what is doing really well here, because my assessment of humans during this pandemic is naturally, all the humans are very developmental, they are very progressive in nature, they're adaptive. So the number of I can't imagine the number of people coming forward and having discussions on their individual development plans for 2020 during this pandemic with me is increased so much from last year. People are working from home, they need somebody to talk to, they need somebody who can who can guide them, who can have a consulting kind of a conversation with them. So I think informal ways of learning, mentoring kind of sessions where there is an expert who can listen to them, who can serve a buffet of his or her experience in front of the learner. That is really doing well. So this is the time not to suffocate people by telling that you have to learn this skill, otherwise you will run out of your employability. Your deployability will be difficult. Rather, just leave them with these learning tools and let them play with these learning tools. People are all cautious about these changing times.
Has even pedagogy of learning gone a complete change or just minor changes here and there for each one of you?
Okay, so can I answer that? Right. So first of all, I just want to give a 30-second background in terms of what is it that my department focuses on. So when we talk about training, so anything to do with any business problem, technical training, new hire training, functional training, all those are given priority, right? And even if we have to conduct any soft skills, behavioral trainings, that have to be linked in with a business problem. So for example, if I have to conduct a let's say a leadership workshop, okay, people management skills, then I need to address a problem of maybe of attrition rate, or maybe GPTW scores, etc., right? So we in my organization, the kind of framework that I've created, we will not do any training which does not have an impact on one of the business matrices, right? So that is a background. Now with the a lot of speakers mentioned that COVID has been a boom to the learning departments in different organizations. So I completely agree with that. Because earlier me and my team, we used to travel a lot, to different places, different cities, different countries, all the time, and now we are stuck. I've been sitting on this chair for last 7 months now. Uh, you know uh, so the way, yes, effectiveness has gone a bit low, but we were able to find out very good solutions. So for example, if there is a new hire and we have to train this guy on how to operate a particular software, right? So for billing purposes, for getting a car, and managing the RC flow, etc. If you have to use the software, then how do you go about it? So what we started doing was that we need to record screens, etc. And then someone said that, okay, we need to procure a good screen recording software and all that, because we already had we already have a LMS in place, and we also have Articulate. So that's not a problem. So we started recording Zoom calls, or the way you are recording this call, right? So Zoom calls with screen recording, fantastic, because there is a voiceover as well. We started putting all those recorded Zoom calls onto our LMS, and to learn it as many times as possible, because wherever they get stuck, they just open that window, and that thing is also available through a phone. So that's one. Second is the way there are small training nuggets that we started creating. And mobile phones came really handy, because people started recording their 2-minute, 3-minute video. For example, if I have to talk about, I go as low as which is the grassroots level of my organization, maybe an inspection engineer, that this type of a car has to be evaluated in this way, and these are some of the things that you need to look at. Then one is the technical expert is actually using his mobile phone, recording that video and putting onto the LMS, right? So small little things which really help, and we did not think about it earlier, but these small little steps actually helped us in making sure that people are able to learn, and learning doesn't stop. Plus we were able to make it more exciting, gamification, this, that. So very interesting things have happened so far.
So just to add to the point that Rajesh made, I'll just revert back to the question that you put, Niti, is on the pedagogy part. I mean, the pedagogy overall, when I see this, pedagogy has elements of various things, how people learn, which is very important. And right now, the way I see it, there are 2-3 thoughts process. You put a bouquet of offerings to the employees and say, hey, this is the training available, you go and look at it. Or something is thrust down their throat that this is what you need to have. Okay. But the point here is these elements, some of these elements where applicable will still be needed. Compliance training still will have to be done within the organizations. The element which now the organizations are will have to look at is the fact that um, I have invested so much in learning, but why are people not doing e-learning so far? I mean, we would invest millions and millions of dollars and get all those content providers to put huge amount of content on various, but you'll see the utilization will be bare 50%, not even 50%. Some have reached 70-80% success, great. But on an average, if I were to look at it, now what does it take? So that's where the whole piece of human-centered design comes into picture. The whole piece of okay, fine, I'll still offer a bouquet of offerings, but I also try to put persona-based learnings. I would still try to look at roles and give them learnings in that kind of context. So more contextual learning element will have to be enhanced in this process, because earlier you were connecting, there were managers talking to team members in an office environment. Now that's not happening. You are in a virtual space. So you will have to now create that kind of ecosystem within the organization, which says, hey, I mean, if you are growing in this path, you are a data analyst and you want to become a data scientist, this is the path which is available, and you could take this path through these learnings, period. I mean, that's where we can give them all these, but the bouquets will change now. Bouquets will not be just that, Java 10 trainings, some training, negotiations in this training, but it will be, hey, you're building a career. These are the 10 things which should include behavioral, which will include technical, and which could include some other elements of process also into it.
I completely agree with you, Deepak. In fact, one of the steps that we have taken is looking at two elements for evaluating anyone's performance. One is productivity. Second is knowledge. Right? You need to have this knowledge. So at different levels, we are conducting different type of evaluations to gauge knowledge of that person, right, for that particular role. Now, the thing is that when we start evaluating productivity and knowledge combined, you will get this XYZ rating in your appraisal or whatever, right? So that has become the flow. And when that becomes a target, so people have started automatically seeking out for information, whether it is e-learning, whether, going to your mentor, whether, so if because, end of the day, if you have to appear for that test and pass that, because that is how you will be evaluated. That poll has already started. So that's one change that I've seen in my organization.
And I think Deepak, you raised a very pertinent, point on engagement of the learner, right? I mean, while online you say, 50%, 70%, in some cases it's even less than 10, 15% where people log in but don't complete. I mean, the global completion rate for any online program is 12%. So we are really not competing against the 70, 80s, we're competing against the 12s or the 15s of the world, right? So how do you ensure engagement of learner increases, especially during this time, right? So like we said, Sheetal said tech nuggets, or, Rajesh said some, learning nuggets. What is the right combination of virtual learning, some self-learning, some assignments, some assessments? Is there any match to it, or does it change from organizations, or does it change from role to role? And especially for the new hires, right? I mean, they are freshers in the organization. So what is it that all of you all do in that case?
I'll go.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. So,
Yeah.
so something before this answer, just would like to tell what we did is in this behavioral space, looking at the trend and looking at what kind of initial months, I'm talking about March, April, we found some kind of a trend, and off late we have many topics where we have given some kind of a touch with respect to work from home. So we have a series called as a work from home series. For example, one topic, how to handle loneliness while working from home. 1 hour of webinar, or and likewise there are some 10 different topics. While that is an exclusive series on work from home, we see a good number of people attending, and while rest of the topics, usual topics, we have some touch, at least some 10-15 minutes we spend on how would you do this while you are working from home. So this is a pedagogy. So I just wanted to answer on that pedagogy front, one thing. Second, all the sessions, 1 hour sessions or maximum 2 hour session. And then some time ago, Deepak mentioned, so we started using a lot of videos. So after every few minutes, a small video in our session. So that has been a practice all of us have adopted. Like I said in the beginning, a lot of changes we did experimenting, and then I believe in data analytics. So look at the data, and then that will give us a confirmation that whether are we doing right. With respect to new hires, again, the same thing we have started. So recently there's a batch of around 40 people. Behavioral sessions for them are again, done the entire content. We changed it to make these people understand without seeing the corporate how to work in corporate. So the traditional typical freshers training, we have further modified, keeping this particular scene in mind that they will work or continue working for another 1 year. So imagine a fresher with a great, a lot of work. They complete the graduation with an anticipation that they'll work in a nice AC office, all facilities, and then imagine that next 1 year they're sitting at home only looking at the screen. I really pity them. So yeah, the changes have been done.
So,
Yeah, so
one thing which
I
I
would
need
like
to,
to add,
yeah, please go ahead.
since for us it is both manufacturing as well as software, right? So manufacturing is something different piece, right? I cannot imagine manufacturing related training intervention can be done on virtually, right? You can still show certain videos about SMT lines, certain videos around RF or something, certain videos around some small machine equipment, right? Operator can learn. But then real-time scenario, real-time situation is still dependent on instructor-led training programs, right? So unfortunately for those set of people, it is still the same, right? We have introduced a little bit only e-learning content just to ensure that safety hygiene factors are being maintained and properly that content delivery is being done through e-learning mode. But typically these set of people are coming from a poor background. They haven't seen, right? Apart from mobile, they haven't seen anything. So content curation happened just to ensure that they should get the content on the mobile device, and whenever they have free time, they should be able to learn. And it is typically 1 minute or 2 minute video only. The content length is also restricted, right? Otherwise, what will happen? The moment it's not a movie, right? If actors movie, they can watch for 3 hours. It's not possible, right? Engaging millennials is very, very difficult, and everybody, all of us are aware of. So what we did was we have created a content curation to a limit of 2 minutes on a higher side. That it is a kind of like a story, start and end within 2 minutes. Chapter over. So people are able to get the point with those videos, and the actual learning happens for them. But engineering folks, is still what Harshal is saying, absolutely echoing with that. We are also doing the same, e-learning content being is available. Instructor comes and clarify the doubts, or rest is in principle being followed. So there is nothing so significant different for engineering folks.
Sorry, Subnish, we're actually losing your voice in between.
Is it better now?
Yeah, for now, yes.
Okay, I hope you don't mind. You don't want me to repeat it again.
And it's okay. But yeah, we were losing you in between, so it's okay.
Okay, let me switch to something else. Maybe you can carry on just a sec. Give me 2 minutes.
Yeah, Deepak, you were saying something.
Okay, so when I look at this from your question perspective, see, the whole modalities of this will change over a period of time in this virtual environment. You need to look at learning as a journey, not learning as an event, which is very important. You should not look at just a 3-day course and complete the course, and that's where you've acquired a skill. It doesn't work like that. It has to be a journey, and journey is a set of learnings, experiences, everything put together over a period of time. Okay, so if you are just expecting someone to acquire skills on the basis of just a couple of modules done, will not work. You will have to look at structuring a program going forward, which gives you that kind of ecosystem of learning. That, okay, fine, you would have, as a few of our colleagues said, that you can have bite-sized learnings, but it's not just about bite size. See, bite-sized learning could be just at 2-minute knowledge nugget kind of a thing. But if you need to acquire a skill, it's not about this bite size piece. Bite size is just a pedagogy. Okay, fine, I may do shorten it and put it together. But the point is, how can you create effective journeys for individuals will really drive what really will drive the whole engagement with learners. Otherwise, it will not survive. Otherwise these videos will be just something in your archive lying there somewhere, unless until they're not part of a larger journey, which is very important. And added to this is the fact that there should be some interventions which could be weaved in together into this to make it more effective. And that is something which has to change from a mindset perspective. And especially in the manufacturing space, I'm a strong believer that augmented reality will play a very great role in the future, because of the fact that you need to take them to a factory, you need to show them the devices, they should really experience that. So I think the whole piece of technology coming in there will play a very vital role in this scenario.
Correct. I agree, Deepak, and we are using that already. So I did not touch upon augmented reality-based learning because we are already using it. I touched upon on this bite-sized learning because this is something which we have started using very recently. But valid point, absolutely agree. Yeah, engagement level will definitely be there only when we are taking them through that entire cycle of skill achievement.
And
So I
when
find,
you
sorry.
Carry on, please.
go
Carry
ahead,
on.
please. I'll go next.
Sure. So, see, I think there are a couple of things that we need to keep in mind. So one is that we are coming up with different training solutions, bite-sized learning, augmented reality, etc., etc. These are all ways of imparting training, right? But why would someone come to attend that training program, or as we spoke about, utilization 12%, people are able to go through all those courses, etc. So I think if we are able to address that question, then automatically everything will fall in place. So what we have done is that, see, specifically for most of the Asian countries, what we have done is that we said that this is the skill that you will be evaluated along with your productivity, right? So there could be an exam, there could be a mock role play, etc., etc. So this is, or there could be someone observing you. Mystery shopping is something that we introduce, right? So we'll be testing you on your skills, right? And we will be testing you on your knowledge along with your productivity. So uh, if one wants to get a promotion, that you need to get this kind of a rating, and for that rating you need to have X performance plus Y. You should be able to display these skills and knowledge. So when that is the target, automatically, because people know that I will be tested on that, and the way we've been working, or at least I used to study like that in school, that I need to clear this exam, hence I need to study, right? Very late in my educational career, it came that I want to gain this skill. The thought process was always like that, and I think till the time, so that is the same kind of methodology that we've been following, which is very, because people, we are so stressed all the time, because there are people who are after our lives, that I want to do this, I want to do that, because I will be evaluated on this. Please give me a refresher on this, or the multiple people coming in again and again and going through those courses on the e-learning platform. So I think the question that we should be answering is, why would someone come and learn? If you are getting your salary without even learning, why not continue to do that? So that is the point that in case if someone has more ideas around how to attract people to learn, that would be great.
Kemna, can I go next? We both started at the same time. So, Rajesh, you ended at a very interesting point. I'll just share, what we did to attract people to upskilling programs, because upskilling is difficult. As Deepak mentioned, it's long journey. You can't be upskilled in 30 days time, or you can't be upskilled in, say, 45 days. Picking up new skill, it's difficult, it's painful. And specifically when you have your day job, you're part of a project, you're part of DMMs every day, you have a demanding client, so expecting that somebody will be upskilled in 30, 40 days time is absolutely out of question. So what we did was, at an organization level, whatever technical skills we have, we divided them in three categories. So we call them cat 1, 2 and 3. Cat 2 and 3 are those skills which are existing in the organization, but we are not getting newer clients on those skills. So we get newer clients only on skills which are sitting in category 1, and it's kind of public to everybody. So people who are in category 2 and 3, they have that hidden fear that, okay, no new business is not coming on the category where I'm sitting in. So he has a bit of push from inside, and that's one part that brings learner to these upskilling program. Second, somebody spoke about the business need. We absolutely link each and every upskilling program to a business need. we are also absolutely no nonsense when it comes to upskilling. Upskilling has to be connected with the supply chain of the organization. We are investing in dollars, we are investing in efforts of our internal mentors. Sometimes we are getting mentors from market. It involves money. So somehow, you have to understand, what is the ROI. So if before starting an intervention, you know what is the business need, you know what the why behind the business need, you know that uh, by this person, by acquiring a new skill, he has a longer employability in the organization. And somehow, if through your conversations with your learner, you are able to show that big picture to your learner. I think that's another way of not pushing people, rather motivating them to acquire new skills. And there was something else in my mind. It just skipped out of my mind. I will just say that I think we are doing very, very interesting things. So I'll just say that later, maybe after Kevna.
Sure, cool. I think there are a lot of interesting perspectives, and what is my key takeaway so far is that as long as you tell the learner why he or she is learning what he or she is learning, I think you had him or her sit through, else you've lost them. But I do believe that especially in this virtual learning aspect, in real time, or in when you are having face-to-face conversations, it's far easier to have their attention, simply because you're sitting in the same classroom or same arena. There is little that you have in terms of distraction, except for the frequent breaks that people ask for. You really don't have too many distractions. In virtual, it's a lot easier and unsupervised, so to say. And it, as kids and as grown-ups, we've always liked somebody sitting on your head, or somebody saying, "Arey, where are you looking?" And only then you start looking at the screen. So one of the key or small things, I think, that really work for us, and I'm talking about really small operational items, but especially new hires are, I think, the easiest bit to do virtually. Because they are keen learners, so you don't have a push. If there already is a pull, they want to listen into to people. um, they are key, so you have their attention, so that is like 80% of your job done. And then you are imparting knowledge which is new, so again it's up for grabs. You don't evaluate them on the knowledge that you have imparted, so again, not an ROI in that sense, but it's more of an engagement. um, Upskilling in the virtual arena is absolutely mind boggling, if you ask me, because while you use AR, VR, machine learning, and every sort of method or media, so to say, it is difficult because probably Rajesh mentioned, unless I know what is the carrot at the end of it, I am not interested. If I complete this course, am I getting my promotion? If no, then I don't care. And that is the primary problem, I think, or challenge that we have faced, whether with or without the pandemic. um, but what small little things, like I said, I'm going back and circling again to the new hire piece, or any other training where I want actually people's attention, is to say that having them on video rather than giving them up for grabs, saying do it at your will, because then I really don't know what is happening. There most often there are videos that are running, and they are somewhere else a lot of times. So it happens most of the times. I have attended webinars like that, so I know that. So if there is no video on, for me, most often my attention is wandered. It is difficult, especially for a kinesthetic learner. If a person loves just listening in, it's good. But I think very few people are like that in that sense. uh, and stuff like you have them dress up for a picture for the video, stuff like that, so then you have something incentivizing you to get up, go, look forward to that day, and come back to that session is important. And yeah, so I think those are small little things, but while it has been a difficult, or rather captive audience in that sense, Sonal, but it is also equally uphill task for learning practitioners, because we've had to also kind of upskill ourselves and build those small elements, like a micro nugget for a behavioral course, at a in a very small time frame. And context is, I think, end of the day, what matters eventually. So yeah, so I just wanted to chime in on that a little bit. I think we're having a great conversation in that sense.
And Kema, I loved what you said, and completely leaning to controlled democracy, no? That's the only way to get the learners in and effectively ensure that they learn what you want them to learn. Of course, I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's always push and pull, right? I mean, if it's interesting, if it's part of my appraisal cycle, definitely the person will complete the program. Right? There's
Right.
more to ways about it, but I think what Sheetal also mentioned is quite interesting that if they vie to get to the next level or to the next role or to the next project, by default they'll push themselves to learn. So one thing you mentioned, especially for the new higher learning, and we've all been talking about virtual, but we've at our organization also realized that while we are doing virtual, we're sending assets to wherever people are, right? That feeling of joining a new organization is doesn't sink in so easily. I get started, I get trained, I go through the induction. So have you guys done anything differently to ensure that they, without coming to office, they still feel that the organization that they've joined, different? How do they feel? What is the culture of the organization? Is there anything that you guys are doing? Yeah, Rajesh.
Yeah, so obviously, you cannot replace the feeling of going to the office, and if I'm joining a new organization, I would like to feel the air, the vibe, the furniture, the people, everything, right? Unfortunately, that can't be done in today's scenario. So what we have started doing is that for every new joiner, there is a hand holding. So first there is a welcome call which is arranged. So typically it's on Mondays that we have joinings, and for all the new joiners, there are a lot of people right from HR, training, business, etc. So people come in, and they it's a big call where everyone's video is on and people are introducing. So before we take introduction of these guys, we start introducing ourselves, that this is what we do, and this is what you can expect, so that at least people know. And we are talking about head of the departments as well. So I go, the head of the business will also be there to welcome new joiners. So at least, and plus we also give them some goodie bags, etc. We courier it to them. So that's something that we've been doing, but happy to hear ideas from others.
Yeah. So one piece that
I
I
think
picked up just about recently from my daughter's online class, though I'm not really able to implement it, but I look forward to doing that, and I would like to hear your thoughts as well. So obviously this year they have not really gone to school at all. So the school has actually they picked up pictures of the school, the playground, the swim area, their classrooms, and they made an entire video of it, that this is how your class looks like. And there was like an entire 20-minute or session where the teacher took them through the different parts of school, and said, this is where you would have been, this is where you have been. And it was like really a fun event for the kids, frankly, for us as well, because she's like really little, so I have to sit with her. But that is what gave me an idea that we probably have so many pictures, and we typically share a video either over social media or otherwise, but actually showing them pictures of, this could have been your seat, or this could have been your pantry area, and this would have been your seating. And now some of the offices, at least, have started opening for us, and even Mumbai office for that matter, in parts is open. So I'm just trying to get some pictures, some fun events also, saying this is how it looks like to be together at office, and not like the events of Diwali and special days, but actually a regular day where you are just
Yeah.
picking a cup of coffee from the pantry, something like that. One of
So,
the things we've also been doing.
interestingly, yeah,
Yeah.
Kevna, sorry. Just to add to what
No.
you're saying, I mean, I did hear this from one of the L&D folks, and I was talking to them.
Yeah.
I think it was an IT company in Bangalore. They've actually
Yeah.
shot a video right from the
Yeah.
entrance of the campus of the office, so like a large
Yeah.
SEZ. Get
Yeah.
inside. This is the elevator. This is the floor. This
Yeah.
is the biometric.
Yeah.
So they've done a complete walkthrough of the office, and I thought that was a great
Yeah.
idea. What you're
Yeah.
saying in
Yeah.
terms of pictures, videos, I think
Yeah.
that'll probably give people some sense of where what their office space is like, right? I think
Yeah.
quite
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just to add to this, I have a different perspective to this also, on the fact that there's a lot of property consolidation which companies are doing. They realize the success of this. So pretty happy that work from home is doing really well, and it's working in India. I mean, uh, when I looked at folks, I interact with some architect in Switzerland or somewhere in Scotland. This gentleman is sitting on this in a cottage and he says, I've been working from here for almost last 10 years, and it's right in front of the sea. And for us, being in our hometowns, we were all migrating to be larger cities and working, but companies have realized that, and that's, I think everyone knows, it's public domain. People are talking about it. Now, in that scenario, what will happen in the long run? Somewhere the whole mindset of onboarding in a company will have to change for companies and also for individuals, because now that touch and feel or a sense of belonging to the company will have to come in a different way altogether. Okay, and that is bound to happen. A lot of people will still work from home. Some companies are actually putting strategies together that how can I have 50% of my workforce work from home itself? They will never come to the office. Now imagine that scenario. If that's a scenario the industry has to be taking into consideration from a future perspective, what should change? How should onboarding change? Now, when I see this right now, in the last 3 to 6 months, we onboarded 3,000 campus grads with boot camps. The last batch was 500 women folk, just women. They were joining together as one group and going through technology boot camps together. And you can imagine for them, just to bring that kind of element of belonging to company is very difficult to. I mean, you need to create a different perspective for them altogether. One is showing office space, yes, but are you actually going to go to these offices and work? Maybe I can't say in the long run how it will happen. But the point here is then what should be what is different should happen. The idea is now this is where the leadership plays a very vital role. Their connect to these individuals, to employees, having conversations, and now they're not traveling, they're not at airports, they don't have, I mean, their availability time to do these sessions is much more. Whether it is a business level leader or the CEO or the CEO or CFO, whoever for that matter, can actually connect with these individuals in a perspective that they should understand that they belong to the company, give the context of the business, talk to them. I mean, that is something which will have to evolve now from an onboarding perspective and getting people to belong to that organization. It's a very important thing. I mean, you need to look at a mindset change here altogether for everyone, organization as well as for employees. They should also have that thought process now. Earlier it was like I'm going to a big campus and it's such a fancy thing to have a McDonald's within the campus or something. I mean, there are different campuses who have different things out there, but that's not the way it is going to operate in the new normal. So a different perspective is needed here.
Deepak, I completely
Deepak,
agree with you. And in fact,
I agree and I don't agree both ways. I'm sorry, Rajesh, but I'm just
carry
kind
on,
of going
please.
to
Go
go
on.
here. I agree and I disagree both because I have both kinds of people in my organization. There is an entire team of tech. So they are these product designers, meme creators, and what have you in Bangalore. And then there are call center guys who obviously have to be in office. So actually, we in 15 days time, once the lockdown was announced, we arranged for a virtual call center completely, and we were able to turn that around. But having said that, there is motivation, and I've seen call center floors in that sense. There is a completely different vibe when you are on the floor versus when you are at your home and doing. And it is actually, there have been people who've come up and said, I cannot work from home. You imagine a place in Mumbai where there is a 2 BHK which is in 700 square feet or less, and there are like 8 people, 10 people staying in that place. If it is younger guys, there are like 6 guys staying in a 2 BHK and touching it out. It is extremely difficult for them to do a constructive call. I know I take calls and I have like my parents, my daughter, everybody in the, and it's like a bungalow system here, so I have like more than enough. I'm in luxury in that sense. But I can only imagine when you are actually having client calls and having to have it in such a frame. So there are going to be certain jobs which are still going to be very much out of office. And for them, this is like the first and probably the only time that they are working from home. So to give them the semblance that things are going to back going back to normal as they envisage it. Because for them, this new norm concept is actually getting very scary. I've had those anxiety calls where people are like, this cannot be the new norm. I cannot work in this new norm. And especially women, right? They're going crazy. It is extremely difficult, especially when you are at a in a call center setup, and you are trying to cook, and you are trying to manage your household, and you are also trying to take a client call. They're like, we this is like when one of the hirers that I was talking to, and they specifically specialize in diversity hiring, and that is what they said, that we have actually found a drop in women joining workforce at this point in time. People say that working from home has increased, but it has actually reduced the women from the workforce, because it is driving them crazy fundamentally. Otherwise, you see, we've been working. I have done multitasking myself, so I know. But I've had help, right? More than enough help. In current context, that help is not there, so it is really very difficult. Looking forward also, Deepak, in that sense, to go back to office.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different perspective, but generally in the industry, the way, if you look at it, the way consolidation is happening. But anyways, I mean, different folks will have different strokes for different folks, I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
Kevna, I completely agree with you because I stay in Mumbai, so I understand that the space crunch and everything. Fortunately, both me, my wife, so we've been able to manage the space and everything. But and I also agree with the fact that there are people who are dying to go back to office. I'm one of them. I need to see people and all, but the reality is that I don't think, as Deepak also mentioned, I don't think that is going to happen. And we as an organization also, we have realized that there are certain roles who will be able to operate from home, and they don't have to. For example, I can operate from anywhere because I have my team spread out across different countries and everything. So either I keep on traveling, or roles like the one that I have should continue to work from home. And I think it is a similar thing that we used to have, a mall versus these online e-commerce websites for shopping, right? So that kind of change has happened, and people have started buying more online rather than going to a mall or going to a physical shop and buying material. So I think that's a kind of change that people will also see. So the entire behavioral change, the technology change, etc., has to ensure this transition, because earlier people used to prefer going out to a shopping mall and buying stuff. But in the last few years, that has been changing, and because of the pandemic, that has changed completely. I'm not sure how many of you have gone to a mall after the pandemic. So I think it's a similar kind of change that we can expect here in this space, and supported by technology, of course. So we should think in these lines, because this is going to be reality, never changing
Yeah,
reality.
true.
So
True. So there
Niti,
is just
I
one more
basically,
diversity in our portfolio now. Sorry, Sonu.
yeah, I just wanted to, kind of, I was just listening to all of them that they are talking, and there are two important points that are, coming up, emerging out of this discussion that we had for last 10 minutes. One is that different roles, different organizations, different people, and their need is different for sure. And the second is that no matter what the situation is and what kind of context that we're talking about, the job roles, etc., whether they need to be in office or they don't need to be in office, there are two things that emerges out very clearly. One is the Mastercard way, if I may say, they say that we are ready when you are ready. Okay, so that environment wherein we can address problems like what Kevna mentioned, wherein there are some roles which just can't operate from home, and therefore the organizations are also supporting that kind of a move. On the other hand, what Deepak brought in as a point is very valid as well. Given the current norms and the situation that we are into, and the new normals are changing, the only thing that the leadership team or the larger part of organization should focus on is genuine interest and concern about the employees. As long as you have that, as long as you know that you have the back of your employees, you are there as a supportive leader, you are there as a supportive organization, people will start automatically getting that belongingness feeling. So we all agree, right? We are in such kind of a situation where nobody can help. So the genuine concern, the Gemba walks that we used to do always being in the office is now not possible, but virtually it becomes much easier. Leaders now have the opportunity of not traveling or doing a lot of extensive kind of other things where they lose a lot of time. This is the opportunity for all of us to see how can we actually connect, bring that leadership skills and aura, and genuinely do it, not as a tick mark item, because people get that sense of culturally being aligned, and that's how you're going to create the cultural environment and the cultural image of your respective organizations. If a leader picks up a call, if an IT engineer calls up a new hire and says that, hey, I just understand that you have joined newly, and I hope that your Skype is working properly, your Teams is working properly, do you have anything? That itself is enough in the current situation, right? And do we are we as an organization looking into building that culture in the new time is something where we should focus our attention. And I think we all will be able to sail through this situation is what I primarily feel.
Yeah, absolutely. Bang on, and thanks for summarizing this, Sonila. It's so nice. It's really good to hear. But also, I mean, since we are looking at alternate ways, are any one of you all experimenting with different styles of learning, different styles of teaching, like let's say the theoretical method or something similar? Over and above everything all of us are doing, right? We're using tech, we are doing virtual, we're doing various things. Has anyone experimented in any other forms of learning? Especially for these new joiners, the whole engagement, all of that kicks in, requirement is a lot higher.
So if I may just start with this, couple of things which we started off, not just for freshers, but generally, is also the fact that, I mean, this is something which is not a new thing, but it's been there for some time, called as a flipped
Yeah.
classroom.
Yeah.
Okay, flipping the learning completely. I mean, the point here is that can I create assets of learning through recording, through other things, and the core things leave it to individuals to come prepared by watching videos and then coming and doing real life case scenarios within a training environment. I think those pieces, and then having these knowledge nuggets of recordings available to them full time. I mean, they can go and do anything at any point of time. Giving them lab access, which was earlier, I, by the way, used to have a training room in which used to do it. Now you have everything virtually available. So you have virtual labs on cloud available for through various service providers, and you can give them, put that together. So giving them that ecosystem of learning in this kind of modality changes the way they learn. I'm, since I'm talking too much of technology here, but that's the way I see it here. And within the behavioral space also, then the same thing applies. I mean, how can we use technology better? How can we the typical MS teams, you have breakaway rooms, you can kind of do some, every team going into a separate breakaway room, doing that session, coming back. And these, some of these modalities is the way we are kind of working towards changing things. That is what I want to add here.
I think she has dropped
Yeah,
off.
yeah, I guess our moderator has dropped off, so anyone else would want to kind of take it further from here?
Yeah, I think she's joining.
Yeah, Deepak, I mean,
So,
I think,
some
Deepak,
connectivity issue.
I'll,
Mercy
yeah.
is back.
Niti, you are on mute.
yeah,
Looks like
Niti,
we are not able to hear you.
Niti, are you back? I think
Right.
Subnesh, you are talking something. You can
Yeah.
probably
Yeah,
continue.
yeah.
Yeah, I said
I
she
was
had
just
some
agreeing with
internet.
Deepak.
Mhm.
I was agreeing with Deepak what he said, right?
Yeah.
In this new normal, if you see, there is a limited scope. Virtual is virtual, right? Online is online. You cannot make it offline 100%. You cannot make it 100% offline also. So it's a mixed blend which we need to use in both the ways. And the possible combination can be you allow them to do generic themselves, and the specific one can be discussed, or problem statement can be understood via VC. But in entire engagement, if you really wish to achieve that highest engagement level, the course curation activity is something where we need to pay attention to, right? The course curator, he has to pay attention to it, that what amount of time or what amount of depth should be given for them to self-learn and what to be discussed when they are over the VC. That is where we need to pay attention to. See, it's about them. It's not about you and me. We have done our job, right? We we are at a other side of the table. We are proposing something to them. If they are not interested to take it, we will not be able to propose. Even though we are proposing the bestest one, they will not be able to accept it. So that does not make any sense if you are proposing something which is of no use for them, right? So course curation activity is going to play a vital role here. What is your session formation? How session formation ingredients you are mixing? That is where we need to pay attention to. And to what extent, I think somebody was saying the gamification. No doubt, it is really good, strategy to add. But then to what amount of, ingredient as a gamification should be there in a course curation, right? That also we need to pay attention to. So I really like the idea that yes, plus or minus both are there, offline, online learning, but the good blend is going to make it successful. On top of it is good blend should be acceptable by the audience. So key role will be again the audience. We need to understand the audience, and accordingly the course curation can happen for the same topic in different manner. That's how I think.
And you think even in the future, whenever we go back to whatever normal or new normal we'll talk, this is how it's going to be for learning for across board for new hires, that it will be a fine balance between offline, online, self learning, and all of that, Subnesh?
Yeah, I believe yes. I believe yes. I will not say no to it. The primary reason is majority of us have accepted this new normal. Majority, right? Deepak has mentioned the right point. The physical location consolidation, right? So somewhere the office setup has become small. I don't have a space to sit. So ultimately, I'm dependent on online mode only, right?
Yeah.
All the learning contents are coming through learning mode. So I am somewhere, I'm dependent on something which is being proposed by virtual, right? So this will be this will not stop here, or this will not finish so easily, right? It will definitely have maybe number of years. I would not say it is going to vanish, right? It will be part of your day in day out life for sure. You cannot deny it.
Niti, the thing is that learning technology curve till the last year was like straight, like a plateau.
Correct.
Now suddenly it's picking up big time.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you have AI ML was talked about in the industry. Now it's being spoken about in learning space. I mean the amount of applications of AI ML in learning is increased tenfold now. I mean, I can get from just a e-learning perspective. Now I can get real-time information of how the learner is doing that learning, which part of the content this person is just skipping and clicking next,
Yeah.
where how many times the person is faltering in the quiz, how much time did this person take to complete the entire thing, and giving me an analysis of is this training actually working or not working. And it's also the engine tells me, okay, fine, he might have scored 86% in the quiz, but this person is actually 60% only. I mean,
Yeah.
he's not gained any knowledge. That kind of intelligence is now building up. Okay, and
Deepak,
then
just add on. I'm so sorry, but you see the attention, how much amount of time this audience is, paying attention to your web content. That is also being captured. So
yeah. So what I
AI
mean is,
has
see,
AI has
let me
enabled to
just
that.
come to that.
Sure,
Let me
sure,
just
please,
come to
please.
that.
Yeah.
So the point is just not this much. Second is personalization. It is also looking at personalization, individual ways of how they learn, what kind of content they're looking at. It's able to personalize and recommend like a Netflixing of learning. I mean, talk about XAPIs, talk about learning experience platforms, mobile coaches. I mean, talk about all these applications. The sudden spurt in the learning technology application is going to bring in drastic change. We will all learn from our mistakes. By the way, all will experiment. At the end, somewhere they will arrive at a new plateau, which will be different. That is how I see it. Right now, it's a time where all of us experiment, make mistakes, learn out of it. And then somewhere down the line, after 1 or 2 years, we'll come back and say, you have now, all these vendors who come to meet you as learning leaders will come with a different solution altogether.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Very true.
absolutely. Yeah. But and coming to where Deepak, you are raising a point, right? Because technology and inclusion of technology, Subnesh mentioned AR, AR will actually, yeah, AR VR will actually take us in a long way. AI ML is already being included in our daily lives. What our preferences are, so whether it's for learning or it's for buying or it's for something else, or watching Netflix, all of that is using intelligence, and over a period of time becomes more and more intelligence basis the users demand, right? But currently, given the fact that all of us have jumped into usage of technology, are any one of y'all using, let's say tools such as Kahoot, Mentimeter? Is there any experience around using those tools? I mean, good, bad, ugly will take us far.
Yeah. So just to start with, right? So we are running Leadership Academy during this pandemic. This was an opportunity for us. So we are using this tool Mentimeter, right? There were a couple of interaction with the leadership team which we have done, and I would not say we are using, we exploited it honestly. Right. The results are good. We were not surprised, but then yes, at times it was an eye opener also in certain cases. So
Okay.
not Cohort, but then Mentimeter we have used.
Oh. And any other tools that one could make use of?
See, Kahoot and Mural is another tool which is basically a collaborative kind of a platform, and that is being used widely. But the similar kind of features are also available in Teams and WebEx. Okay, so you'll have to see what is the merit that you get into these different tools and techniques, technologies. About Mentimeter, when you actually run program and when you want a very swift response, it's just like a polling kind of a tool. So you'll have to see, Niti, my take on this is that there are multiple tools that are available in the market. All of them have different features or similar features. It totally depends upon what is the purpose and what is the context that you want to use this tool in, and then make a choice out of it. There are some things which are already readily available even in tools like Zoom and Teams, or for that matter even Skype, right? So it all depends upon what is your appetite to go and explore a new tool at an additional cost versus what is already available and have you explored to the maximum and then making the best use of it. So technology is evolving definitely, and there are many options available, but we as organization, something that fits for a team lead might not fit for for my organization or for somebody else's organization. Or totally depends upon the context and the purpose that you want to use and the outcome that you're desiring.
Yeah, and tools are plenty for different reasons. I
Right.
mean, as Sonal mentioned, you could do with MS Teams and not talk about all these tools also. I mean, this is just one part of it. There are other things which can be there. There can be coaching, mentoring done on the tool. I mean, I've seen in couple of best case studies. One of them is a mobile coach being used for the sales team. They coach them as they do the transactions. I mean, that kind of effectiveness. So various tools are available for various reasons. I mean, the XAPI LRS combination to do analytics out of learning, what is happening, to give you some more better outcomes, to improve the quality of learning. These kind of things are different requirements. So you have different things, different ideas around for different initiatives that are taken within the organization. Apply them. So this is just a range of tools that you said is just only to engage as from an engagement perspective. But you should look at from a larger perspective. Lot of interesting work happening in the technology space from learning point of view right now.
Yeah. Harshil, you would want to, just give a brief on what's happening on VR and how are you using VR specific to your learning.
I'm not using anything on virtual reality, right? But then I would like to share something which I was trying almost like in 2002, 2005 times, when I was into pure virtual reality, nothing related to learning. And there was a program which I was a part of, international program, research program on virtual human. And virtual human concept, and it will all come. It's just a matter of, people start using it. And like I said, the pandemic will open up the doors. So virtual human is, I will just pick up an example. The Prime Minister you know, this poll rallies. So there was a holographic image of then contesting prime minister, and then it was at the same time projected everywhere. And for the participants at different places at, you know, Nukkad Pe, they used to feel like he's actually standing on the stage. So he was delivering from one place and it was all transmitted, and people used to feel like that's an actual human being talking. It's a 3D. So that's called as a virtual human project. I was more into graphics visualization and the, you know, geometric modeling part of it. That was my research area then. But then I think that's going to be the future, I believe, where although we are all stuck right now with this MS Teams or WebEx, right? It's a 2D, but then soon the time will come where I, at my home with some kind of a good setup, I'll actually deliver the training, right? And some devices at different houses will make a pop-up and they will feel like, you know, the trainer is standing. And little further if we go, we will all be, right now we are all seeing each other on the, you know, nice, you know, 9 of us. But then soon time will come, take it from me, another 5-10 years time, we will all be in a room and we'll feel that we are all standing next to each other.
Yeah,
So
telepresence, it is already there.
yeah, it's a you know, virtual presence,
Yeah.
and the technical name then was a virtual human. So we're
I think
working on
right
it.
now, yeah, right now it's digital human, because
Yep.
I think it's important for us in this digital era to be digital humans, big
Right.
in the way we
Digital
are using
humans.
technology. Yeah.
Absolutely. 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 And many sci-fi movies do already have, and we always say that sci-fi movies then, you know, even 1975s later, those sci-fi movies, actually those film producers and directors and those, you know, script writers of sci-fi actually have given lots of ideas to us. I remember, I don't remember the name of the movie, but then it was Sylvester Stallone in one of the movie. He goes home and he remembers his wife, and wife in a virtual world stands. I remember I used to use that. I used
That's
to use
great.
that video
I
clip.
was about to say that I'm sure all men in this room will say, "Wow, that's a great feature to have. Call your
That's
wife
great.
when I want, not otherwise."
Right. And one last thing I'll just
It's a
use.
recorded call. Please delete this part.
Yeah.
Yeah. So another thing I just would like to share with you, I, as a part of one of my experimentation, and nothing new, it's a very old technique, is using feature film movie in teaching. I during pandemic I started using it more often. I would have till now used some 10 different movies on different sessions. It really, you know, I'm very passionate about watching movies. I do watch Friday evening, minimum 2 movies type. And recently I used a movie named The Founder, which is about McDonald Corporation and how the Ray Kroc made it big. So I used it for 2-3 different topics at different. So one of the session I did was determination and persistence. And there's a very famous dialogue in that movie by Ray Kroc as a character. And then I used that entire movie in little pieces throughout my session of 2 hours, you know, as a case. So that is one experiment. It really worked good because we generally ask this question that how do we engage learners online? I found movie is the best way. And then what happened? Many people replied to me later telling that they, out of curiosity, now they know the bits and pieces of the movie. And next weekend they watch that movie. And then they say that now we learn the concept, what you explained. So movie as a medium has been one of the, you know, a pedagogy. And Harvard, there is one school called as a negotiation. I forgot something on that. They are promoting a lot of using movie as a pedagogy towards teaching. So
Thanks. Very
it really
interesting.
worked for me.
Just keeping an eye on time. We are past our, we are past
Right.
5:30. So, and I'm sure we can keep doing these conversations for a much longer period. Very interesting discussions. Thank you, everyone. We will surely connect with each one of you personally as well to take further inputs whenever required on how the whole industry is moving towards, digital learning, virtual learning, and different methods of learning. But I think today was really very, very interesting for me, and definitely a lot of new ideas and thought processes. So, anyone would want to say anything before we wind up?
I think it was really interesting. I got some cool ideas, and I'm going to definitely implement a few. So thank you, everybody.
And I just
Same here.
want to say one thing. I think interaction with Deepak was little having a different perspective. Thank you, Deepak, for sharing that perspective. Right, in most of the questions, you brought in something new, right, or something different, I would say. No doubt, understanding and this thought exchange between among us was really nice. And thank you, Team Lead team, to give to give this opportunity to interact with each other. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Always fantastic to speak to industry leaders like you, and something new comes up every time we converse. So thank you, everyone. We'll be in touch, and we will share the recording of today's session with all of you as well. So please feel free to use whatever you want. Right? Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you all. Bye bye.
Thank you all. Thank you so much.